right, it's time for my meta predictions for the Toronto Regional Championships. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down what I think are going to be the most played decks in the room, how I think the decks are going to be played, what decks I think have a good chance of making top 8 and winning in the tournament, and other surprise archetypes that might do well. I'm going to break down the percentage of decks I think that are going to be played in day 1, and also I'm going to talk about my top 3 picks for the tournament, the decks that I will most likely be bringing to Toronto this weekend. I can't wait for the tournament. Pretty excited to see it all go down. If y'all are new here to the second channel, why not subscribe down below and leave a like in the video and let me know what your predictions for the Toronto Regional Championships are in the comment section below. So, starting this off, I gotta mention Gholdengo. It is, in my opinion, the biggest deck in the format right now. It's debatably actually the best deck in the format. I know a lot of people are arguing that Gardevoir is the best deck. I think Gholdengo is set in stone as probably the BDIF right now. It's gonna be pretty popular this weekend. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that in my meta percentage part of this video, predicting how much of it will be played in day 1, but Gholdengo will be very popular. The deck you're playing this weekend has to have some kind of answer or strategy against Gholdengo. It's going to be popular. This is a big tournament, and a lot of people are playing this deck. Gholdengo is like the deck in the format right now that not only top players will play because of how good it is, but also newer and more casual players will play this because it is easy to win with Gholdengo. It's probably, out of all the decks in the format, I think Gholdengo is the easiest deck to win games with. You really don't have to do a lot to win a game with Gholdengo. It's super easy. It's a very autopilot deck, but it's also very good at the top level too, which makes it a very versatile and deadly deck in the format. I'm pretty scared of this deck, I'm not going to lie. Gholdengo does spook me this weekend, but I think it's going to be hella popular, and I definitely think you got to respect it. I will say this, if you're somebody who's been looking to play a wall deck to this tournament, like a Crustle deck or a Cornerstone deck, I would be wary. Gholdengo will most likely be on low punny this weekend. I can't see any Gholdengo decks not playing the bunny this weekend. I think it's just really good in the deck. Not only is it a great answer to Cornerstone and to Crustle, it's just really good in general. And I think a lot of the Gholdengo decks will be playing the low punny. I mean, I'm talking like maybe like 20% of the Gholdengo players will not be playing low punny this weekend. I think for the most part, we're going to see a ton of the bunny in the Dengo. I think you just got to play it right now. If I'm playing Gholdengo, I'm playing low punny. I think it's too good not to play, and I would expect it to be very popular. So definitely expect that. Gholdengo's weird because some of the lists will be on PPP, the Premium Power Pro, and the Cramorant. If I was playing Dengo, I would probably be playing the Cramorant and the Bunny. I don't know if I would fit the Premium Power Pro, though, because then I got to cut consistency. But yeah, Gholdengo looks really good for this weekend. It's the top deck. It's going to be the most popular deck in the room, and I think they're all going to be on low punny. So if you're somebody who's looking to play Crustle this weekend, be a little wary that you're going to probably have to face a few Gholdengos. Gardevoir is second best deck right now behind Gholdengo. It's probably going to be pretty popular. Now, there are different variants of Guardy. We have the Guardy Jelly build, which obviously I think will still be played fairly heavily, but I could actually see the most common way to play Gardevoir is actually the Turbo non-Jellicent build of Gardevoir, whether they're playing the Drifloon, the Lux Capes, whatever they got. I would expect Guardy to be fairly popular because of the 2 variants right now. There's actually a lot of talk about Turbo Guardy being the better way to play Gardevoir. I would expect Guardy to be popular this weekend alongside Gholdengo. A lot of people argue it is actually the best deck, but not Gholdengo. But I think it's Gholdengo. But Guardy is really good. Guardy Jelly is still a very strong deck. I think a lot of top players will still be playing this weekend. And then obviously I think a lot of the Guardy lists will be putting Technical Machine Evolutions back in their deck to beat Dragapult. And I would expect that to be out in full force. So 2 Team Evo, 2 Kirlia is going to be the way to go in Guardy. And also Guardy Turbo Guardy playing the Screamtail. The Drifloon definitely could be out there too. I could see Guardy playing Drifloon. But I would expect the Turbo Guardy to be fairly popular too. I think both variants of Gardevoir are pretty good right now, and I think Guardy will be popular. It's like another deck that probably will make the top 8 of the tournament. Like, we're obviously going to at least see 2 Guardy in top 8 minimum. Like, we're going to probably see someone in the Henry Chow group on Guardy this weekend doing really good. Guardy's well positioned for this tournament, and Dragapult, I feel like it's kind of on the decline, which is good for Gardevoir. Speaking of which, Dragapult, definitely the next best deck for this tournament. Will it be the second most played deck or the third most played deck? I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but I would expect Dragapult to be popular. Pult is just kind of a catch-all deck. It doesn't really have a standout great matchup apart from Donzard and normal Charizard. Other than that, Dragapult, you know, it's close into Guardy, especially now they're playing the TM Evos again, which I expect they will be. That's going to hurt Dragapult. Also, I would argue Dragapult is slightly unfavored against Gholdengo, so it's not like got the greatest matchup spread in hindsight, but it's just such a good deck that it always will do good no matter what, which is why I expect Dragapult to have a good weekend. I think it'll also be pretty popular in the tournament. It's going to be a lot of Charizard. Dragapult, good matchup against Charizard. I would expect Dragapult to be a popular deck at Toronto this weekend. Definitely expect to hit a couple of these throughout the tournament. It's going to be big, and it's not even a bad deck right now. It's like another deck that always will probably make a top 8. At least one Dragapult Soldier will make it a top 8 in Toronto. Now, Charizard is the next big deck. I mean, we can all agree that the 4 big decks in the meta are Dragapult, Gardevoir, Gholdengo, Charizard. But there's a different way with Charizard. There's 3 different variants of Charizard right now. The most popular one is going to be the Dawn build of the deck. Now, I actually don't think Donzard is the best way to play Charizard. It's the strongest way to play the deck. It doesn't make it the best way to play the deck because it does have a lot of plays. It's got the best Gholdengo matchup out of all the Charizard decks, but it does have a very weak matchup into Dragapult and into Frillish, which I'm not a big fan of. I don't know if I would want to play a Charizard deck that loses to Dragapult. That's why, personally, I am playing Charizard this weekend, most likely, but I'm not playing Donzard. I like the deck. I think it's very strong. It's got a decent Dengo matchup, especially if the Dengo player doesn't know how the prize map works against this deck. It's actually pretty difficult for them to beat you. But you just take such a bad matchup against Dragapult, and I expect Dragapult to be popular at this tournament, and I don't like that. But Donzard will also be very popular. There's a good chance you're going to hit Donzard mirrors throughout the tournament because I think this deck is going to be the most played version of Charizard. Then there's the Charizard Dusknoir Pidgeot build without the Dawn and the Owls in there. This is going to be also pretty heavily played, in my opinion. This is a pretty solid deck. It does have, I mean, I would say it has a better Dragapult match. Only very barely has a better Dragapult matchup than Donzard, but this deck does have a lot more pop-off potential because you got the Dusknoirs in there. You're still decent in Gholdengo because you do play the Dusknoirs and the Briar. The Secret Box allows you to be more explosive. You're still taking a bit of a beating to Item Lock, which I'm not a fan of for this tournament, by the way. And that's one thing that holds me off on playing the normal Charizard deck. This build, though, is still fairly solid. It's just a little scary to play both variants of Charizard when there's going to be so much Dragapult. The build of Charizard that I've been enjoying the most is Slowzard. This has the best Dragapult matchup out of all the Charizard decks, and it's probably got the weakest Gholdengo matchup. That's like the one downside about Slowzard. You're getting a better matchup into Dragapult than into Gardevoir, especially Gardejelly, but you're sacrificing a weaker Dragapult match or a weaker Gholdengo matchup. But I've been really liking Slowzard right now. I'm probably going to be playing this tournament. This is my deck that I'm basically like locked in on right now. I'm probably playing Slowzard. This is one of my top considerations for the tournament. But if any last-minute decisions and testing come up, I may swap off this deck. This is going to be the most uncommon way to play Charizard. Like, if your opponent flips over Charmander, expect them to bench Duskull or... yeah, expect them to bench Duskull, whether it's Donzard or not. I would not expect to hit a single Slowzard mirror. This deck is also a lot harder to pilot than normal Charizard. There's no Dusknoir in the deck. It's a bit harder to play, but this deck is good in my opinion, and I really like this deck for this tournament, for the record. Even though I don't think Slowzard is going to be very popular whatsoever. Then there's Grimmsnarl, which I wanted to highlight real quick. This is actually a very underrated deck at the moment because it's got a really good matchup against Charizard. It's decent into Gardevoir, and it's pretty decent into Dragapult too. The one downside is you're pretty bad into Gholdengo and the Mega Evolution decks, which is the one big issue I have with Grimm. But if I were playing Grimm this weekend, which... honestly, I would consider it. I played it at Las Vegas. I kind of have enough deck knowledge with the deck, so I would honestly consider running back Grimm to Toronto. If anything comes up, maybe I'll play this deck again at Toronto. Like, maybe it'll be a last-minute decision. This is another deck I would consider for playing for the tournament, just because it's got a good matchup into Charizard, and I actually don't mind the matchup in Dragapult. I think playing Maractus and Blood Moon is really good right now against Gholdengo. These do help a little bit in the Dengo matchup, especially the Maractus, which I think plays a very big role at beating Gholdengo over Yveltal. And Psyduck is really important if you want to fix your Charizard, your Donzard, and your Dragapult matchup a little bit more. And your Lopunny Ghost matchup, if that deck ends up being relevant, Psyduck does play a very big role in beating it. I just like Psyduck and Maractus and Grimm right now. Grimm doesn't seem like a bad deck for this tournament, but like I said, you do kind of lose to the more like bigger decks, like the Kangaskhan decks aren't that, those are bad matchups, and also not really, Gholdengo is tricky for sure, especially though they are cutting Picnic Basket, which is a big deal. I think them cutting Picnic Basket is big. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw somebody have a good top 8 run. Grimm is definitely a deck that I think could make top 8 this tournament. And then we have the Bouffalant Kangaskhan deck, the Tank Kanga deck. This deck was going to be good for this tournament if Lopunny wasn't played in Gholdengo. Like I said, I would expect at least like 80% to 70% of the Goldengo players this weekend to be having a Lopunny in their deck, which really hurts this deck. I think Cornerstone is still the best way to play this variant because at least you do have a little bit more agency against Goldengo. You have the Bravery Charms. You can play the Lively Stadiums. You're going to put up a better fight against Lopunny if you play Cornerstone. I don't think Crustle is very good for this tournament in Kangaskhan. Cornerstone is the better way to go. Tankanga's not bad, though. I mean, you're not bad into Dragapult, and you're not bad into Guardy either, especially if you play Shaman, which I really like in the Kangaskhan deck. I think Kangaskhan's honestly not a bad pick for this tournament. It's just that Dango matchup is really difficult. Also, I don't really think the Donzard matchup is very good either. I think Donzard is also a bad matchup for this deck. If the Donzard player plays it correctly, that matchup is not very good. But Tankanga's good, and I think it'll be played in the tournament. I mean, maybe we'll see one in top 8. I think it's really looking for that breakthrough tournament. Mega Box is weird because it's like Tankanga in that regards where it's not bad, but it does get a bit weaker into Guardy now that they have Mega Diancie. And again, Goldengo isn't your best friend. You do have the Cornerstone still. You can also play the Eerie in there and the Xerosix Mechanicians if you want to lean more into the hand disruption side of the deck too. But this deck does struggle quite a bit against Goldengo, which I'm not a fan of. But this deck is still pretty decent, and I would expect it to have a good run. I mean, at least maybe 1 or 2 good players will have a good run in the tournament. I mean, I think the deck is not in the best position for this tournament, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of these still made top 8. And then Zoroark is another weird one. I don't like Zoroark right now. I think the deck is very... It's okay. Like, it's not bad. My issue with Zoroark is you have to really over-tech your Zoroark deck to beat the meta. You have to play Toedscruel, which I think isn't very good, but you do need the Toedscruel if you're going to beat Goldengo. And even then, like, your Dengo matchup is still, like, not amazing. And then, obviously, you got to play the Lopunny in there if you want to have a good matchup into the walls. And then you also have to cut down on your monkeys. You're only playing 1 monkey now. You have to play Watchtowers in the deck to beat Charizard. Like, I think Zoroark is just kind of jank right now. It feels like a very jank build of the deck, especially with the heavy Toedscruels and the Team Evos. Like, you're just really, you have to over-tech your Zoroark deck right now, which I just don't like. I think Zoroark will be a lot better when we do get Zekrom, which I'm definitely going to look into the deck more for that. But I think right now, Zoroark, it's not a bad deck for the tournament, and I know Liam is, like, cooking something, and I'm sure we'll see a Zoroark deck have a good run. It's another deck like Mega Box where I don't think the deck is the best deck for the tournament at all. It's not in the best position, but I wouldn't be surprised if 1 or 2 Zoroarks made day 2. Or top 8, sorry. Lopunny Ghost is another funny deck. It's cool. I think it's worse than Dragapult, but it's definitely not bad. It's a lot more aggressive than Dragapult. You can actually run decks off the board a lot more efficiently with this deck, which I do like. And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody had a top 32 run with the Lopunny Ghost, especially for this tournament. It is possible. Then we got some Terra decks to talk about that are not Terrazard. Raging Bolt, I think, is probably the best Terra deck, only because you at least have a little bit more power. You have a better Goldengo matchup than the other ones, but Raging Bolt still feels like a bit of a pile. Gardevoir is popular, not great for the deck. Even Dragapult isn't the best matchup, but Raging Bolt isn't the worst deck in the format right now. It's, like, okay. Terra Box, I think, really fell off quite a bit. One of the benefits of playing Raging Bolt is that you do take a better matchup into the Kangaskhan decks, which I do like about this, whereas the Terra Box deck has an abysmal Kangaskhan matchup. Like, it's nearly unwinnable. Like, it's just that bad. You have to play, like, Hoopa to even make it close, but even then, I think that's still not enough. Like, Terra Box isn't in a good spot for this tournament. There might be a few players that might play it. I think you have to innovate more. Like, I just think this very standard build of Terra Box we've been seeing is just not very good for this tournament. But I think Terra Box isn't bad. And there are people that like to play the deck that I'm sure will still bring it to Toronto and have a respectful run. Flareon Box, I think, is a better version of Terra Box. If I'm going to play a Terra deck, I think I would rather play Flareon over Terra Box, maybe even over Raging Bolt. The deck isn't as... It doesn't have as much damage output as Raging Bolt, but it does have raw damage, and it's still not bad at a Goldengo, especially when you do have the Flareon and the Briar and the Wellspring Ogerpon in the deck. You are taking a bit of a weak Guardy matchup. Now that Guardy might actually be going back to the Turbo build, that's pretty bad for this deck, in my opinion. Turbo Guardy is not a good matchup for this deck, but I don't think Flareon is in a bad spot. If I had to put more time in the deck, it'd be something that I would maybe look into playing for this tournament. I think it's the best Terra deck out of the 3 Terras you can play that aren't Charizard. My other issue with the Terra decks, Watchtower might be popular this weekend in Guardy, Dragapult, like Goldengo might even start randomly adding a Watchtower into the deck. I think Watchtower's play rate might be a little too scary for me to want to play these Owl decks this tournament. You just kind of get collateral really badly by the popularity of Donzard, which really hurts. So, like, these decks do feel a bit weaker into a meta where everyone's playing the tower. Another deck I think is very underrated is Pultzard. This is a very catch-all deck. Now, if my opponent flips over a Charmander or they flip over a Dreepy, I do not expect them to be benching either a Dreepy or Charmander in their Dragapult or Charizard deck. But I do think Pulsard is a good deck. This is my second pick for Toronto. If I'm going into this tournament with a Charizard deck, I'm either playing Slowzard or I'm playing Pulsard. Pulsard is a lot better into the Dawn builds. Of all the Charizard variants, it has the best matchup into Donzard because you are playing Budew. You do have your own Dragapult. I think Watchtower is really good in the deck for this weekend too. I do like the idea of it. Unfair Stamp I think is pretty good too. I'm either Team Unfair Stamp or Team Max Belt for this tournament, but I've been really liking Unfair Stamp recently, so I don't know if I'd play Max Belt and Pulsard. I don't think you need it. I think it's better in Slowzard, but Stamp is pretty good. Yeah, this is probably the list I would play if I were to play Pulsard. Pulsard will have a good tournament. I honestly can see this deck making top 8 or ASIM in Toronto. Now, Joltik Box isn't even bad for this tournament either. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if some people played it. I don't think it'll be that popular, but, I mean, it's not even a bad deck. It's like Goldengo, very easy to win games with, but it's not even that terrible for this tournament. Though, if Turbo Guardy sees more play, I don't know how good Joltik Box is, but I wanted to mention Joltik Box in there. And then Alakazam is probably the best one-prizer deck. It's definitely a good one, and honestly, it might be popular. It's got a really good matchup against Goldengo, which is a very appealing thing about playing Alakazam. Though, obviously, you're going to lose to Gardevoir, you're going to lose to Dragapult. Donzard, it's kind of tricky if you don't play Psyduck, but Alakazam's pretty decent. I mean, it actually could have a small meta percentage. It could be on the graphic. It won't be in the other category, not for this tournament. Now, the surprise deck I want to mention was Greninja. I actually think this deck is fairly decent in this format. It's kind of like Dragapult, where you're just like a Budew bomb deck, but this deck does have a little bit going for it with Mirage Barrage. I think a good pilot can actually take this deck very far in a tournament. I mean, we saw that at LEIC, and I wanted to highlight Greninja for this tournament because I actually like this deck. If I had more time to play with Greninja, I would look into playing it for this tournament. I think it's good. Nobody's really playing Shaman. Like, I don't think Charizard's playing Shaman, Grimmsnarl, Dragapult. Nothing's playing Shaman right now, and that's really good for Greninja. This deck is genuinely a strong deck at the moment, and I kind of like it. I think somebody can take it pretty far in Toronto. This is my wild card pick for the Toronto Regional Championships. Now, let's talk about the meta predictions, meta percentages and stuff for the tournament. Let's get into it. So we'll start with Goldengo, which I think will be the most played deck. Genuinely, this deck is going to be like 25% of the room. Like, it's going to be up there for sure. It's going to be in the 20s. I mean, Goldengo is just such a good deck, and it's popular. People like playing this deck. It's easy to win games with. It's fun to play too, and Dengo will be heavily played. Like, I would not be surprised if it's in like the 20s percentages. Like maybe 25 is a little too high. Like maybe like 23%, 22% is a bit more accurate. But I think Goldengo will be the most played deck in the room by far. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it's in like the 20s in play rate. Dragapult and Charizard are also going to be popular. If we're kind of grouping Charizard together, I would say Charizard has a good chance of being like 15, 16% of the room. Charizard is a popular deck. People like playing it. And there's all the different variants of the deck going around. 15% might be a little bit more fair. 16 is a bit high, but I think Charizard will be the second most played deck at Toronto this weekend because there's all the different versions of the deck. The Donzard build will be the most played variant. I think Donzard will probably be like if we're totaling the Charizard decks together, like Donzard will probably be like 12%, 11% of the room, and then like normal Charizard will probably be like 6%. I think it'll be something closer to this in terms of Charizard play rate. Maybe 5% for like normal Charizard. But I do expect Donzard to be the most popular variant of Charizard. Charizard combined will be in that like 15, 16% meta share. Gardevoir, same thing. Guardy will be out there too. I actually don't know if Guardy or Dragapult will be the third most played deck. Probably Dragapult. Like Dragapult will be like most likely 12%. Like that's probably the case. Like, it'll be behind Charizard. If we're combining the Charizard variants together, Charizard will be more popular than Dragapult, but Pult will still be in that, like, 12% range. Guardy will probably be around, like, 10%. 11% of the room will be on Gardevoir. Probably, like, 10%. I think, actually, both variants combined will be 10%. I don't know if Guardy, like, we're not going to see 10% Turbo and, like, 10% Jelly. It'll be, like, probably 10% in total for Gardevoir. Guardy Jelly, like, Turbo Guardy will probably be, like, maybe, like, 5%, and then Guardy Jelly will be, or Turbo Guardy might be like 4% of the Guardies, and then Jelly Guardy will be like 6% of the Guardies. That'll probably be more realistic, I think, for Gardevoir this weekend, in all honesty. I could see it being closer to like this for the tournament for sure. And then I can definitely see Kangaskhan being like a 5% deck. People like this deck. Mega Box will probably be like 3%. Raging Bull will be 2%. Like Terrabox, 2%. Now, Enzorg is weird. There's actually been a lot of talk about Enzorg for this tournament, and the Liam build is going out there. Zoroark could be in that, like, 4% meta share. It's not going to be that popular, though. People really don't care about Zoroark that much. It's also hard to play. Again, the deck will be popular when Zekrom comes. Like, for the first tournament in the new format, Zork will be way more played than it is right now. Grimmsnarl will probably be like a 3% meta share deck. I do like this deck for this tournament, but it won't be very popular. Alakazam might actually be like 4 or 5%. Like, I am not kidding you on this. A tournament this big with this many casual players, the amount of people that are going to gravitate towards randomly playing Alakazam this tournament is actually going to be kind of high. I actually would not be shocked if Alakazam is 5% of the day one meta. Like, I actually could see that happening. Maybe Kangaskhan Boof should be in the 6% range. And honestly, I might consider bumping Dengo up to 25%. Like, I'm not kidding when I say Dengo will be heavily played. There's so many people playing the deck right now, and top players are going to be playing it. The propaganda for Dengo is being pushed out there heavily right now. Dengo will be popular. Honestly, Charizard Noctowl might even be 12%. The more I think about it, I really like putting Charizard Noctowl at 12%. Like, bumping that up a percentage kind of makes sense. But I think in reality, this will probably be what the graphic looks like. I think the most played decks will easily be Gardevoir combined will make up a good chunk of the meta. So it'll be like Dengo most played deck, Charizard second most played deck if we're combining the two variants together. If Pokemon do not put Charizard Noctowl and Charizard Pidgeot on the graphic separately, Charizard together will probably be at least like 16%, 17% of the meta. Dragapult will be 12%, Guardy will be like 10, 11%, and then below that, Kangaskhan, Buffon, Alakazam will also be decently played. Megabox I could see going up to 4% for this tournament. But I don't know about that because Mega Box is like no people don't play it as much as Kanga Boof. Kanga Boof, like, it's not that hard to play either. It's another deck that people enjoy playing. It's satisfying to play the deck. Like, it's a fun deck to play. Like, I don't think Mega Absol Box is going to be that high played. Like, 3% genuinely is where it is. It's a deck that good players are going to do well with, but I think a more casual approach to playing the deck would just be play Tank Kango, which more casual players, I think, would rather just play that instead of the Absol Box deck. Guardy might be a little underrepresented. Guardy may be an 11%er, in all honesty. Like, maybe like Turbo Guardy at 5%, Jelly Guardy at 6%. I still expect Jelly Guardy to be more popular than Turbo Guardy, but I think that Guardy combined will be in that like 11% meta share. And then like the 10% obviously goes to other. There's actually a decent amount of like other stuff in the format, like I said. So this is my meta predictions for the Toronto Regional Championships. Gholdengo will be very, very popular. Like, my prediction is Dengo is going to be like 20% plus of the format. Dragapult, Charizard will also be heavily played. Charizard will be the second most played deck. Dragapult will be third most. Guardy will be fourth most played deck. I think the big four are going to be the most played decks, and I think it'll be in that order in terms of like how fun people like to play these decks. Like, a casual player won't be attracted to Guardy over playing Charizard, right? So that's my predictions for Toronto. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think of the predictions? What do you think is going to be popular in Toronto? The deck that probably can win the tournament, obviously, I'd give it to probably Gardevoir. Dengo, maybe, honestly. Gholdengo's just that good of a deck. Dengo is going to be heavily teched against, though. Like, Toedscruel, Eerie, stuff like that. Like, Dengo is going to be countered pretty heavily. It'll be popular, but people are going to build their decks to counter it. We might see some surprises come out of some of the bigger decks, like Dragapult. Somebody might find an innovative way to beat Dengo. Guardy, same thing. Like, we'll see more anti-Dengo for this tournament for sure. But yeah, those are my predictions. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll see you in another video very soon. Bye-bye.